Good evening this evening, and welcome to the OHIO Podcast Monday Night Discussion Roundtable Show. It is awesome to have each and every single one of you with us this evening. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Of course, ring that bell, get notified every time you go live. You need to get a hold of the show. Email us over at theohiopodcast@gmail.com. Check out the website, theohiopodcast.com. We've got great articles over there, great links. We've got the roster. We've got the depth chart. We've got who left in the transfer portal. You could spend hours on our website, maybe even days, Chris, over on our website. There's so much information over there. Go check that out. Of course, you can follow us over on all of our social medias, Facebook, X, TikToks. You name it, we're probably there. And if we are, even if the ones that I don't know, there might be someone over there acting as us. I don't know. You know how the internet is these days.
But you know the best place to find us, Eric?
Where's that?
It's on Patreon.
Yeah, over on Patreon.
As great as the podcast, as great as the website is, Patreon's got that much more.
It is. And here's what's awesome. I got a package today from someone on Patreon.
Nice.
And she told me to open it live for everybody. We'll probably open that over on Patreon just in case it's embarrassing.
Maybe it'll be like a live rattlesnake or something.
Oh, let's hope not. Let's not go there. We've got a great show for all of you tonight. I am the Podfather, aka Eric Boggs. You can follow me over on Twitter at TheOHIOPod. You can follow me on Facebook. Joining me this evening, that's Knoxville Nate. Nate, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, where they can follow you.
Yes, sir. I am Knoxville Nate. I am a Buckeye fan down here in the state of Tennessee. You can find me on X at NMSTN4U. You can find me Mondays on the Buckeye Zone. And, of course, right here on the Ohio Podcast. I will also be in Columbus April 18th for the Buckeye Spring Game. Looking forward to seeing everybody live in person. Can't wait.
Chris, you're up, man.
That's exciting news. Nate's going to be there live for the Spring Game event. That's awesome. I am the Wild Man, Chris Wilds. I can be found on Facebook at Christopher Michael. I can be found on X at the Wildman97. And, of course, I can be found right here on the OHIO Podcast, giving the most accurate and unbiased views of college football.
TG, tell everybody about yourself, girl.
Hey everybody, I'm TG. You guys can find me on Facebook as TRGI Sports, on X as TG. You can also find me on the Spectrum Podcast. Myself and James will be doing a live show next Sunday. I know we told you guys last week. Sunday,
That's my bad.
Yeah, but Eric also came at a good time too, because my internet actually started effing up too. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, it did starting. So it was probably for the better that it did happen. But hey, you guys can find us. We're gonna be talking about JSN becoming the highest paid receiver. Obviously, we also meant to touch on the topics regarding Justin Fields and Kyler Murray and other trades happening in the NFL, and a little bit on the pretty much on March Madness of what's been happening over there as well. Especially if you guys watched Iowa beat #1 Florida.
Hey, TG, you know the best thing about March Madness, right? It's a great way to kill time between the end of the college football season and the start of Major League Baseball.
Especially with all the stuff, like just the most unexpected stuff. Because look, I will say this about Iowa. They play at a place where they can be beaten by anyone, but they can also beat anyone. So it's like with them, you never know which one is going to be.
Yeah. So Farah's in the chat. Farah, after show, make sure you're over on Patreon. It arrived today. So, and guess who else? Jennifer is in the chat. Jennifer is leading the pack, folks, after the first week. First two rounds of the NCAA tournament. Jennifer's predictions in the tournament is leading the pack. So, and she's got Duke left. That was her choice to win it all. I had Florida. I've got no shot of winning this thing thanks to Iowa. So, yeah. All right, we got
not been the best state for you, has it, Eric?
I can't stand Iowa. We're not talking about it.
You know what's funny is like Iowa basketball is just like Iowa football. They play at a place where they can beat anybody, but they can also be beaten by anyone. So you never know with them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump into topic number 1 tonight. So um, I've got a little graphic I made for y'all. According to Vegas, Ohio State this season is going to go 9.5. That's the over/under 9.5 games. So either 9 wins or 10 wins is where they're at. In 2019, his first year, this is regular season, by the way, 9.5 games in the regular season. Ryan Day went 12-0. 2020 COVID year, they were 5-0 in the regular season. I'm just going to throw that out completely. You throw the baby out with the bathwater on that one. It doesn't mean anything. 2021, he went 10-2, 11-1 in 2022, 11-1 in 2023, 10-2 again in 2024 with a national championship. 2025, 12-0 last year. He's never won less than 10 games other than the COVID year that doesn't count. So he's been 10, 11, or 12 wins every single year as a head coach. Is it disrespectful, number one, that Vegas has set the over-under at 9.5 this season, Nate? Go.
Yeah, I think it is a little disrespectful. The guy has never lost, more than 2 games in a season since he's been the head coach, and we've got our quarterback coming back. We've got a nice group of starters returning. We have Jeremiah Smith coming back. So I don't really understand the 9.5. Personally, I have this at 10-2, and the reason I have that at 10-2 is because I'm being a little bit trying to be a little bit of a realist instead of just always looking at things through my Buckeye toned glasses, which I do. I admit that openly. But I'm looking at this schedule, and there's no doubt. Thank you for popping that up. There's no doubt the schedule is tough. And going to Austin on September 12th is going to be a most difficult game with Archie Manning having a season under his belt. Is he the next coming like they all predicted? I don't know. I don't think so. But he showed me some things last year that has me a little concerned. Iowa at Iowa is going to be tough. At Indiana, certainly. I have us winning every game except for I've got us losing to Texas and losing at home to Oregon. Those are my 2 losses that I've picked. I hope I'm wrong on both of them, but I've got us going on 10-2, and I think that's being realistic because we could certainly go 12-0. We lost 17 guys last year to the NFL and still came back and went 12-0 with the freshman quarterback. So I think we've proven that we are the mainstay at the top of college football, and I do think it is slightly disrespectful to throw a 9 win kind of total at us, considering the talent that we've got on this roster.
Chris.
Yeah, I agree. It's very disrespectful. However, if you've watched Ohio State football for the last quarter century, you take this as a slap in the face because it's not just Ryan Day. It's 10 or 18 out of the last 20 seasons. This has been a 10 or more win team. However, I'm going to be, like Nate said, I'm going to be a bit of a realist. And context does matter. And if you look at this schedule, realistically, I'm kind of in the same boat as Nate. I think 10-2 is it. I don't think Texas is a team that's going to beat them. I think Texas and the SEC as a whole are overrated. I think we've proven that over the last, 3 years. We've seen that. But overall, I mean, if you look at this is an Ohio State team possibly playing its toughest schedule, I would say, in the last 25 years easy.
Yep.
I mean, you're on the road at Texas, who's probably going to be a preseason, definitely a preseason top 3, probably, if not the preseason number 1. You're at home versus a much improved Illinois team. You have at Iowa, at Indiana, at USC. You are at home versus Oregon, and then you close out the season with Michigan. That's not a schedule. It's a gauntlet. Let's call it what it is. It's a gauntlet. So if you think this team isn't going to be tested and isn't going to slip up at some point during the season, you're absolutely insane. Now, do I hope that we win them all? Absolutely. But realistically, I think 12-0 versus that schedule is a hell of a lot to ask. But I also think that to just assume, because we have a few challenging teams on the schedule, that the whole program is going to go to hell and all of a sudden lose 3 games, 4 games this season is absolutely stupid. So, yes, it's a slap in the face. Yes, I think it is a brilliant move for Vegas to set the number where it is.
Why is it brilliant?
Because you can realistically see it's going to be difficult for bettors to take Ohio State this year. Because you can see where the challenge is at. I think Vegas knows Ohio State is good. But I think if they did it at 10.5, they get nobody betting on them. I think at 9.5, it is the perfect number. You're going to get some of those people voting or betting who say 10-2 is a lock. Well, first of all, it's not a lock, guys. Let me tell you that right now. It's not a lock. I believe it's going to happen, but it's not a lock. But that 9.5, you get a lot more people putting money down there, and all you're saying is, if one game goes wrong somewhere along the way, Vegas stands to make a lot of money either way. So, I think it's the right number for Vegas. I think it's insulting as far as sports fans consider it, but you know what? It is what it is. Ohio State's going to come up against it. They're going to do what they do best, and that is just go out there and just beat everybody in their path.
Is it disrespectful, TG?
I mean, yes, it is disrespectful because obviously since when has Ohio State ever done that? But I can also see as Chris
the last time it was 2011.
Yes.
That was the Luke Fickell year where we had 4 starters missing.
And no coach.
Yeah.
It's
well, I wouldn't say no coach, but it was an unprepared coach with an empty cupboard.
Yeah. Now, but when you get realistic, there's a reason why Vegas said this. Now, Troy had basically said if Vegas doesn't make these lines based on respect, it's how they can break even. Because he's not wrong about that. It's how they can break even. But also, it's like you, me, Mika, and Chris talked about this on a previous show, is where people see we could go 9-3 because of the 3 games we are most likely to lose are Texas, Indiana, and Oregon. Those are the 3 most likely games. If we were ever going there, those are the only 3. But do I see that happening? No, and I don't think anybody should believe either. Now, is it possible? Yes. Will it happen? No. Texas, I believe, will be better than what they were last year. Obviously, Arch Manning has a season under his belt. He's really good. Does he still have some holes he may need to fix? Yes, let's be real. Like, he's not perfect. But he's still got some stuff Ohio State could possibly exploit. But let's be real. Texas is better than what they were last year. Oregon is better than last year. We all know. The only thing I will say with Oregon is they are replacing, I think, 3 or 4 starters on the offensive line. So the question that you're going to have with Oregon is, are they going to be good on the offensive line now that they've lost majority of their starters on the O-line? Indiana, I think they'll take a step back from last year. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be bad, obviously. Like, they're going to be in the playoff. I think they're going to be in the playoff hunt more times than this year, if anything. But I don't expect them to be as good as they were last year. I think they'll take a bit of a step back. Pretty much like Ohio State, I think they could go 10-2, maybe even 11-1. But and as we look at this schedule as well, this is a non-league. Like Illinois' team is going to be better. Granted, we did take a special teams coach who actually made their special teams so much better. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Iowa, we've talked about it. This is a team who has gotten us in the past. And as we just talked about it with the basketball team, they play at a pace where they can beat you or they get beat. It's one of the two with them. The only other team that I can see also, Ohio State, could USC have a chance? Maybe, but not really, because I don't trust Lincoln Riley at all until they show otherwise. And if I also, if I look at the schedule again, Michigan is the only other game I can also see just because of Ryan Day's previous, obviously we know his whole previous issues with Michigan, but I think he will win this game since he beat them last year. Finally got that monkey off his back. I think he got all the pressure. I think he'll beat them. So if there's but after all, I think if there was any chance for Ohio State to lose 3 games, the only 3, Texas, Indiana, and Oregon. Reality is still putting Ohio State at 9-5, even with a difficult schedule. seen Ryan Day go up against, as you said it, he's gone 10-2, 11-1, 12-0, and we don't call it the 2020 season. He went 5-0. And let's be realistic. Had the 2020 season had a full season, I think he would have went 12-0 that whole season. So the reality is, Ryan Day's never done that. He's never ever lost 9 games. 3 games. He's never went 9-3. Could it happen? Sure, it could. There's a chance. There's always a chance. But I don't see it happening, especially because he always has this team ready.
Nope, we lost her. I wondered when that was going to happen.
Yeah, her internet was getting pretty rough.
It was getting pretty rough there. We'll give her a second. while she's hopefully resetting that router, I've got an audio clip for you guys to listen to. But before that, let me give my thoughts here real quick. On Ohio State in this 9.5. So I think a lot of you have been saying it in the chat. 10-2 is kind of where a lot of you are at, like Richard said here. 10-2. I think a lot of people are at 10-2. Ohio State fans, some of them might even say 11-1, and they're betting on that. Vegas is betting on Ohio State fans looking at that 9.5 and going, "Give me the over." And then I think there's a national perspective here. And the national perspective is they look at that schedule and they say to themselves, lose to Texas on the road in Austin. Is there 2 more losses for this team on that schedule? Very real possibility. 9-3, give me the under. That's where the betting line is set at 9.5, because I think there's a lot of Ohio State people who are saying, give me the over, and then there's a lot of national people saying, give me the under. So listen to this interview. This is an audio clip on 97.1 The Fan. Adam Rittenberg from ESPN joined the Common Man, and they asked him about this 9.5 spread, and he was really honest from a national perspective. He's like, yeah, this is not going to be easy for the Buckeyes. Check this out.
Buckeyes here. I want to know what your take is on the over-under win total that's come out for them being at 9.5. With what they've done in recent years, we're seeing the only 2 times they didn't get to 10 wins in the regular season in the last quarter century was the Luke Fickell year, and then the year where
the COVID year,
the pandemic
2020.
year. Yeah, in the last 20 years, the only 2 times where they didn't do it. Do you think that's a slight, or is the schedule that tough?
Well, it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, here's the thing, guys, is that the Big Ten's different. When Ohio State was annually winning 11 games, it wasn't the league that it is now. You just look at the depth. You look at Indiana coming out of nowhere to be a sustained national power that's coming off a national championship. You look at Oregon, which I think we've talked about before. They've been the best on-field addition to the Big Ten maybe since Penn State and maybe ever. I mean, they've been a really big addition in terms of, top 5, top 10 team. So you add them to the mix. USC is a team that's getting better. I talked with Lincoln Riley recently about that. And then you have a very difficult non-conference game on the road against a Texas team that is facing, real pressure to win a national championship with Arch Manning at quarterback, and a team that obviously lost to Ohio State last year. So certainly less than 9 wins is not acceptable in Columbus. I don't have to tell you guys that. I don't have to tell Ryan Day or the rest of his staff that. But it's going to be a more taxing schedule, and 12-0, 11-1 would be a bit surprising given some of the holes that Ohio State has to fill.
There you hear it. The holes Ohio State has to fill. That is the national perspective. Now, he also brings up Oregon, and I saw Chris over there shaking his head. So, Chris, I will let you speak to that first, since obviously you have a passionate take about what they think about Oregon here. So go for it. Oh, and we can't hear you.
He's right that Oregon is the best on-field addition of the teams that came in. There's no denying that. But you know what? A couple of things stood out there. First of all, he says Indiana comes in and wins a national championship and is now a sustained power. We've seen them win 1 year. 1. So, you know what? Before you start the sustained power crap, let's see it over a 5-year period. Second, Oregon, yes, great addition. They have won the Big Ten, no denying that. They've beaten Ohio State once along the way. No denying that. But, he's sitting here and he's bashing the Big Ten. Like, the SEC didn't have the same top-heavy mix. There was Alabama, Georgia, and then a sprinkle in of an LSU or a Florida or whoever here and there. But it was the same exact top-heavy mix. And they didn't go as far, but is Vanderbilt really all that different from Indiana? In the way that they're constructed, the way they're playing, the way that they've came out of nowhere?
I mean, yes, because Indiana won a national championship.
Okay, they won a national championship. Okay, they had a good season. Nobody's denying that. But what I'm saying is it's a very much a mirror image with the exception of the trophy. So, I love these idiots on the national stage that go out there and act like they know something about what we've got to replace. Nate said it himself. 17 starters we had to replace after 2024, and all Ryan Day did was go 12-0 last year. Now, was it as tough a schedule as he's going to face this year? Absolutely not. But for the love of God, stop preaching to me about Texas and Arch Manning, which have proven nothing yet. Stop preaching to me about Oregon and Dan Lanning, which have won nothing yet. Stop talking to me about underachieving Lincoln Riley and USC, who have won nothing yet. Keep OSU's name out of your mouth, unless you're going to put a little respect on it.
Will Smith this thing, are you?
What's that? I wish I could walk up and pop this idiot in the mouth. Because he damn sure deserves it.
I agree.
All right, Nate, your turn, buddy. TG, get ready after Nate.
I agree with that. He's acting like, oh God, we're in the mighty Big Ten now. We've been in the Big Ten for 100 years. Okay, yeah, it's expanded. Yes, we added some better teams, and in that expanded, big boy Big Ten, we went 12-0 last year. Is our schedule tougher this year? Yes, but let's not act like we're in some new fortress that we have no way of getting out of. We'll be just fine, like we always are. And I just talked to Lincoln Riley, putting it out there like he's buddies with him. Who cares? Lincoln Riley's a moron and is about to get fired, and went 7-5 with the Heisman Trophy quarterback. So don't act like we're impressed that you texted Lincoln, buddy. Nobody cares. We stepped up and have a pretty good non-conference game, who we beat last year. So don't talk to me about how we're just going to be terrible because we have a tough non-conference game. Now, some teams haven't gotten rewarded for doing that, so should we do that in the future? That's another topic for another day. But we're not scared to go to Austin. We're not scared to go anywhere. Even I, who have them picked to lose to them at the moment, that doesn't mean that I don't think we can't win. I was just saying 10-2 because of the difficulty of the schedule. But there's also a possibility that we go 11-1 or 12-0. I wouldn't be. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And where are these holes that he's talking about? I don't know of any holes on our team.
That's what I want to know. Is what holes was he
Point me to the holes, because I don't know where these holes are. As we talked about the other night, I was concerned about losing Tyleik Williams, and I thought that might be a hole, and we plugged that up with Caden McDonald, who was even better. And, we were worried about Joshua Simmons leaving, and, our offensive line was serviceable. It looked bad the last 2 games, but I think they'll be better next year. I sure hope so, but I think they will. And, we replace starters every single year since I've been born. We don't rebuild, we reload. My grandpa, who was born in 1928, told me that, and it's held true every year of my life. So I don't see these holes that Adam Loser Rittenberg is seeing, and I think we'll be just fine. Now, is the schedule tough? Certainly. But it doesn't scare me, and I think we will be back in the playoffs in 2026.
TG.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, hold on.
Holes he might be referring to are obviously the players we lost, which is always going to be the first thing.
What in the world? We lost her again. I'm actually intrigued to hear what she thinks, what he interprets the holes as.
Well, the only thing I figure is maybe, okay, we lost Caleb Downs. Is there going to be a hole there? I think there's going to be. I think there's going to be a lesser. I don't want to say lesser. I think it's going to be different, but I don't consider it a hole.
Me too.
We may not have the leadership, the field general that was out there in Caleb Downs, but we have a guy who's got the. We have a couple guys with the athletic ability to go out there and perform at a similar level.
Correct. I don't think we'll replace him with one guy. I think we're going to do it with a group of players who each bring something to the table. And we don't have Caleb Downs. We're not just going to put another Caleb Downs out there, but I do believe that we got some guys in the portal. We have some young guys coming in, and with the group of gentlemen that we've added, I think we can plug up that hole in the defensive backfield. But he's definitely the biggest loss. There's no doubt. He's a generational talent. He's one of the best safeties we've ever had. Heck, we threw him on the number 2 Mount Rushmore the other night, so that's certainly given him cred, and he deserves it. He's a fantastic player, but let's not act like we didn't lose some fantastic players off of the national championship team. And what happened? We went 12-0. Now, there was some things going on in the end of the season, which, didn't help our cause against Indiana or Miami. But those two teams were also very good and ended up making the national championship. So there's no shame in coming up 3 points short to the national champion or, getting pushed around a little bit by Ruben Bain and company on the edge.
This is an interesting question that
I see it.
There.
The holes he is alluding to, in my opinion, are the same holes that we all thought there were the year before on defense when we lost, 7-8 starters then too?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, and then Matt Patricia comes in and it was like, oh yeah, I will take Jim Knowles' defense and I will make it better. Watch what I can do, right? So I have complete confidence, despite losing all this great first-round talent that we did on defense, possible 4 starters in the first round. Despite all of that, I am confident that this team and this defense is going to be just fine. So, and then on top of that, I think the offense is going to be way better than what they were last year for a multitude of reasons. Play calling, the quarterback's got a year under his belt. Almost the entire offensive line has returned. I think all of that speaks to the fact that this team is going to be much better offensively than they were a year ago. All right, TG, let's try it again, girl.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. My internet's been just acting pretty crappy. I'm gonna call Xfinity in a minute and say, what is with y'all freaking service? Why is this always happening?
It's about to go again, looks like.
Of course it is. Let me see. All right, so what I was gonna say, what were we talking about beforehand?
We were talking about the Adam Rittenberg basically saying there's holes on the defense. There's holes on this team, and the Big Ten's better, and that's why it's 9.5.
Yeah. Now I will tell him this: has the Big Ten gotten better? Yes. But let's be realistic. We've had eras where the Big Ten was really good and we're still sitting at the top of the mountain. So just because conference got better don't mean as if Ohio State still won't be competing and staying at the top. Ohio State proves everybody wrong all the time regarding that. Secondly, again, the holes on this team, if you're referring to the amount of talent that we lost, such as a Caleb Downs, I kind of understand where you're seeing it at. But at the same time, it's kind of like, where is the hole at? Because from what I'm hearing, you got Leroy Rourke doing good right now. Like, he's been amazing. And it seems like he could take up in that starting spot. You have Earl Little Jr., who's been doing great as well. You have our freaking D linemen who've been going we've been hearing great things about them as well. Where's the holes at exactly on defense? Or even on this team? Because the offense is going to be so much better than what they were last year. We all know this. Come on, like, last year they were figuring stuff out. This year, Julian Sayin, like Arch Manning, has a year under his belt, has more experience. I expect the offensive line to do better than what they did last year. They should, obviously. So where are you seeing the holes at? And buddy, again, I know the schedule is tough. Can I understand why people are worried about it? Yes, we just talked about this. But that doesn't mean that you're going to go out of your way to disrespect Ohio State and act like as if they can't win the schedule. I'm actually glad the schedule is tough because now Ohio State can't just sleepwalk through it. At least we get to see them work on stuff and be on their best behavior majority of the season. And we get to see them fix stuff. And so this way we actually get to see them like be ready by the time the playoffs happen. I think we would have won last year had it not been for the whole Heartline with USF and everything, but things happen, so you can't do anything, can't fix anything about it. But I really do believe that as long as we have a competent OC, which Arthur Smith is, I don't care what anybody says about him, he is a competent OC, better as a great OC actually, because you look at the amount of talent that man has worked with, how much he's gotten out of all his players in the NFL. You find out that you got a great OC who's going to know how to use players, especially a guy like a Jeremiah Smith. So I think we'll be just fine, if anything.
Now, there is, there is one more aspect to all of this that I want to address. And we've danced all around it, so let's just talk about it. The depth of the Big Ten. Two things. Number one, you bring in Oregon, you bring in USC, who's got the cachet but hasn't necessarily been elite in a long time, but they've got the cachet. He never mentions Washington, by the way, which I think is very disrespectful. Washington's the one out of the three teams who's actually played for a national championship in the last 3 years. Okay? So I'm like, you bring up Oregon and USC, it's like they're the ones who actually played for a natty in the last 3 years, man. I understand Caleb DeBoer was there, but Jedd Fisch ain't just, some scumbag. Like, he's really building that program up. So you bring up those things. But then you look at Indiana's gotten better. Iowa's still Iowa. You all have mentioned Illinois, although I think Illinois actually takes a step backwards this year, in my opinion. Northwestern has got Chip Kelly as OC this year. And Northwestern surprised a lot of people last year. Nebraska, I'm not worried about Nebraska at all. But where it's at on the schedule is interesting because that's the week before the game. So I understand where a lot of this Big Ten, hey, the Big Ten's better than the SEC kind of talk, and I agree with that. But let's not pretend all of a sudden that Ohio State that the Big Ten being better has pulled Ohio State down for some reason. That's what I don't understand. That's the disconnect for me. It's like Ohio State is still building an elite program. It's still an elite program. Just because there's more talented teams than there were before doesn't mean necessarily that all of a sudden Ohio State is going to fall back down to the masses. Let me give you an SEC example of this. You've got Tennessee. You've got Florida. You've got South Carolina. You've got Ole Miss. You've got LSU. You've got all these teams, right, that are better than average, right? But who still ran the roost for all those years Nick Saban was there? Alabama. And then when Kirby Smart went to Georgia, now who's running the roost? And it's Georgia. Like, the level of play can rise up, but if they never rise up to that elite status, I'm sorry. Like, they're still elite. Nate, what do you think about the whole Big Ten is so much better, and now all of a sudden Ohio State's going to lose more?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we just talked about. They were better last year. We've won the last 3 national championships, and yet we've still won 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. So it's not like we've just fallen off because the Big Ten is better. And it was the Big Ten horrible before, or did they just prop up the SEC because the Alabama Crimson Tide or Georgia was in the national championship game every year? In my opinion, they propped up the SEC and acted like they were better just because they were top heavy. I don't think that we're just going to disintegrate because Oregon's in the Big Ten now. I mean, I don't think that's the case. I mean, did they beat us once? Yeah. Was that a pretty close game on the road, out in Oregon? It was, and we certainly could have won that game. And then we dismantled them in the playoff. And I don't know if you watched, but they got dismantled again in the playoffs this past year. So let's not act like Oregon's just the greatest team in the country because they're not. We just pretend like they are sometimes. So I don't think that that's accurate. And Adam Rittenhouse is a moron for a reason. and he continues to prove it each time he opens his mouth.
Chris?
Yeah, you said something, Eric, that I want to touch on. You talked about how the some teams never seem to rise. And is the SEC a deeper and more open league, top to bottom? Yes.
No, it's not.
And let me tell you, it is. And let me tell you why, Eric.
It's not.
It's because the teams in Alabama and Georgia that were up here, it's not these teams have risen up to meet that level of competition. It's that Alabama and Georgia have fallen back.
So that makes it deeper all of a sudden?
It's a more wide open league is what I'm saying. Not because of the fact that those teams have all raised their level of performance, although some of them have. Credit to Vanderbilt. They've made themselves not necessarily a bottom dweller anymore. But the fact is, their big dogs have fallen back to the pack. You look at the Big Ten, and right now there are three teams that everybody talks about. Ohio State, obviously Indiana, who's got that shine on them right now because of just coming off the Natty run. Oregon. But let's not forget, Penn State's got a new coach. What's he going to bring to the table? We don't know.
I'm sorry, who?
Penn State. I mean,
No, who are they?
Iowa State East.
Yes.
There you go.
Iowa State East is in the mix. You have, that team up north, even though they're not cheating anymore. Irrelevant. We don't know. We like the new coach. I think we've all agreed that we like their new coach, and we think that he's going to bring at least some honor to their program once again. You do have USC, who, if Lincoln Riley ever decides to learn how to win a big game, could be in the mix. Yeah, you've got the three big dogs there, and there is separation. But it's no different than what the SEC had, as you pointed out, through the Saban years. And yet the SEC was the best league in college football through the Saban years. But they want to criticize the Big Ten, even though they're running the same type of game. No. The fact is, it's just different when you play in the Big Ten. Let's call it what it is. It's just different when you play in the Big Ten. These idiots from the South, these morons in the national media, they can talk the trash all they want. The fact is, Nate pointed it out, 3 years in a row, the Big Ten has won the national title. Yep. There's a reason for that.
Yep.
And it's not just the money. What the money did was leveled the playing field. But it's not just the money. It's the fact that the Big Ten teams are just now flat out better.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I think the Big Ten's got better coaching than the SEC.
Absolutely.
Oh, 100.
Yeah. Shout out WBuck21 for going and doing that research for us. Indiana and Oregon are at 10.5. Ohio State and Penn State at 9.5. Ohio State, Iowa State East at 9.5. USC and Michigan at 8.5. Man, that's some disrespect in my opinion. That really is some disrespect. All right, Miko, your thoughts on this, girl? You get the back cleanup here.
Oh my God, Iowa State East, y'all kill me with that. But here's what I am gonna say. It's like, obviously I agree with everything that Chris has said. Essentially, I mean, let's be realistic about this one thing. The Big Ten has gotten better as far as like the mid tier. The mid tier's finally stepped up. It's still like the SEC and still like how it's been for the last couple of years, where the Big Ten is just it's top heavy, where you still got some mid tier teams that can step up and be able to give you at least a game, at least. But and then there's a gap. But it doesn't mean like the Big Ten, it's not like as if Ohio State took a step back. Like when you look at the SEC, as Chris has said, Georgia and Bama were the two top teams. They've fallen right back down to earth to a point where they're right there with everybody else. They're not like that elite team they used to be. They're not an S tier team. They're like an A tier team with the rest of like the B tiers of the SEC, who, while some of them, like a Vanderbilt, have stepped their game up, the big dogs of the SEC just stepped back because the NIL has pretty much leveled the playing field in the SEC, especially, and leveled the playing field across college football. But for Ohio State, it hasn't affected them at all. They're still the elite team we all know them to be. Seriously, do you see Ohio State taking a step back like a freaking Georgia or Bama? As of right now?
No.
No. So yes, while the Big Ten has gotten better, Ohio State is still gotten better as well. They've adapted. Better than Georgia. Better than Alabama. And the one thing we can say is, like, look, you could bring up Lincoln Riley. I said it once and I'll say it again. That dude is a average ASS of a head coach who is basically where Ryan Day was when Ryan Day first started as a head coach. Except the difference is Ryan Day has gotten so much better, has learned from his mistakes, and has become a top-tier coach to a point where we can trust him to make a lot of decisions more than we've been able to when he was still learning how to, pretty much be a head coach. Whereas Lincoln Riley, you're still doing the same goofy, dumb stuff. We talk about him losing with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in Caleb Williams. Here's the reality. Caleb Williams sucks as a quarterback. I don't care what anybody says, for starters. He was never a good quarterback. They were just in a weak conference. And the fact that you were in the SEC, not in the SEC, in the Pac-12, and you couldn't win that conference. A conference that had no defense. No offense to anybody. That conference had no defense outside of Utah. Utah was the only team in that conference that played defense. You couldn't win that conference. When you came to the Big Ten, it took you a while to finally start adapting. Like, I would give you credit. You finally adapted better in the Big Ten than you've done the first couple of years. I'll give you that. But the reality is with Lincoln Riley is, dude, your teams have always been trash. And I am so sick of hearing him say, oh, well, guess what? We got, like, these new big dogs. We've seen our guys. We got something here at USC in our little dome. Like, I don't care. Like, I've heard you say this before. Until you show it on the football field, until you show me what you, on the field, how much better you've gotten, I'm tired of hearing it. Because at some point, you got to show it. I'm tired of hearing you talk about it. You haven't shown the damn thing. You're still the same coach you've been the past however many years. You still are. So until you show me, I don't care. Oregon, they're a good team. I'm not going to diminish them on this. But like I said, if you're going to bring up Ohio State having holes, bring up the fact Oregon's got holes on their offensive line right now. They're missing some talent. We got to see how they do it. But I do believe Oregon could get better. Again, I believe they get better. But we do got to see how their offensive line performs. Indiana, they're a good team. They've gotten better. You can't take them lightly. You can't underestimate them no more. No doubt about it. But that doesn't mean that Ohio State, it doesn't mean that, like, as if Ohio State's going to have to worry about getting beat every year as long as they stay on their A game against Indiana. Trust me, they know better now to keep their eyes open on Indiana. They know better. So you ain't worried about them losing to them as much as you could because they're going to keep their focus. The Big Ten has gotten better, but that doesn't mean Ohio State is going to lose every single year and rack up a bunch of losses. No, they're going to keep getting better themselves. They're going to keep adapting. And Ryan Day is going to keep doing everything he can to make this team better. Fix every mistake. Fix everything that happens. And until we see a moment where he's no longer doing that, until we see a moment where Ryan Day goes back to how he started, I don't think we got nothing to worry about. So, no, I'm not going to go so far as to say, like, just because the Big Ten's got better means Ohio State's doom and gloom. Like, what are we doing here? If you pay attention, Ohio State, especially against this kind of schedule, Ohio State would kind of thrive because it gives them a reason to stay on it gives them a reason to just stay up on their game because they can't take a break. They can't. They got to stay on their toes and win their games now because these teams can get you if you ain't paying no attention. It's just truthful.
Oh, shoot, Mika. All right. Check this story out, guys. Oh, gosh, I hate this. I hate doing this. I don't want to do this. But I got to do this because it's only fair. I'm going to read to you guys an article I wrote earlier today a little bit. I'm just going to read you a portion of it. Former Buckeye Marcus Williamson, one-time member of the Ohio State secondary who spent 5 seasons in Columbus, pleaded guilty today in Franklin County Court to 9 counts of robbery, bringing the case where he robbed a series of banks in Columbus area. In 2024, according to court records, 5 of those counts are second-degree felonies, with the remaining 4 classified as third-degree felonies, originally facing a much broader list of charges, including 17 robbery counts and multiple theft charges. Williamson now awaits sentencing scheduled for June 25th under Judge Cheryl Munson. The potential penalties ranges wide, anything from probation to 40 years in prison. I mean, talk about a wide range to choose from there. My goodness. Anyways, guys, this caused me to go down a rabbit hole that I did not want to go down, but I did. And I want to share something with you guys. This is actually, let me go full screen with it so you can see it all. This is actually a graphic of disciplinary actions of former Buckeyes who've been in trouble with the law recently, and I threw in some NFL stuff, basically since 2001 or 2 or something, in the last couple years. And the list is actually pretty extensive. Let me show you guys. So let me go through this real fast for you guys. Of course, there's Darren Lee. We all know that one. First-degree murder. We just talked about Marcus Williamson, 9 counts of robbery. Jordan Hall was charged with felonious assault this year in September. Demario McCall faces up to 40 years. No, that ain't. I'm sorry, that's not right. Check that. That should not be Demario McCall. That's Marcus Williamson. Why is that there? I don't know. Anyways, Kirk Barton, obviously, he had the DUI, and Michael McCullough was charged with a felony. Now I'm starting to doubt if any of this is even right. That's not good to have on a live show. Let me go double check this. This is one of the reasons why you need to be careful with all this stuff. But the point is that we have got an issue on our hands at Ohio State. It happens when they leave the program. I've talked about this before. As long as the players are in the program, it seems like everything's fine. But then when they leave the program, that's when the issues start happening. And it's troublesome, to say the least. It's troublesome, to say the least. Why is it, Nate, that some of these players, former players, a lot of them good people, great people, but they have trouble obeying the law outside of the structure that the program offers? What do you think the reason is for that?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think one of the main reasons, not for everybody, I think every case is obviously a little bit different, for sure. Every one of those instances of law breaking is certainly different circumstances. I do think one thing that rings true probably for everybody is when you're at Ohio State and you're playing there, everybody, you're on top of the college football world. I mean, you're at one of the premier programs in the country. Everybody knows who you are. You walk into clubs, you get in for free. The ladies know who you are. Let's just be honest. I mean, you live a little bit different lifestyle than everybody else does. Some of these guys, their professional careers don't work out, or they do work out, and then they end, and then they're kind of sitting there going, what do I do next? And I think that leads to some of these things. Now, just picking out a couple of them here. The biggest head scratcher is, Deron Lee, because what he did is about the most disgusting thing I could imagine any of former Buckeyes doing, especially one that I'd met several times and thought that I kind of knew. Is just, there's no way to even explain why that happened, except for he's not right, obviously, in the head. Maybe he has mental issues. Maybe he had, early CTE. I have no idea, but he murdered somebody, and he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life, best case scenario. But, one guy you didn't have on there was Damon Arnett, who was a first-round pick, for the Raiders, and then had some weapons charges, some felony weapons charges, and then dropped out of the NFL. So that's another one. And then you got this guy, Robin Banks here. It's definitely concerning. And I don't know how you can fix this, because these guys are obviously out of the control of the university the moment they leave the program. But it begs the question, should there be some sort of center, some sort of situation where these guys can go and get help after they leave the program, help getting job placements, help adjusting to life without football, because I can tell you that it's a different world when you go from being the guy and being a collegiate at a major program football player or an NFL football player, and then all of a sudden you're not. It's tough to deal with, and some of these guys I don't think are dealing with it well. The Kurt Barton thing, I think, goes back to some entitlement. I think he thought he could do whatever he wants, and nothing would ever happen to him, and look where he's at now. And that's not just him. That happens to a lot of people, where they think they're not going to get caught doing something, and then it happens. But it does seem to be a pattern, and it's certainly concerning at best.
So I'm going to be honest with you. So I pulled this up. This is the original search I had. So this is, and it's got all the different media places that are citing where this information come from. And you brought up a couple more that we didn't even mention. And the chat's even brought one up. I think Art Schleister had a drug charge, as well as all the betting charges that he had as well. A Michigan fan approached me politely and said, look, I understand why you make the videos you do. However, it's only fair that you look into some of this as well from an Ohio State perspective. And I was like, okay, since you came at me politely, I will. And then today the news dropped on Marcus Williamson. And I was like, Sometimes it as much as we don't want to face the music, I think you need to. There's an issue here. There's a problem. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, look, this doesn't happen everywhere. It absolutely is going to be happening everywhere. But this is an unnormal amount, dudes. Like, for real. This isn't just Urban Meyer guys. These are some Jim Tressel guys. These are some Ryan Day guys. We talk about the culture at Ohio State, and I believe in the culture of Ohio State. I preach the culture at Ohio State, man. But this evidence is kind of damning. So Chris is about ready to come through the screen.
Yeah.
You're completely blowing this out of proportion, Eric.
Am I?
You are completely blowing this out of proportion. How many kids play football at Ohio State every year?
On the football team, 102 now?
105, roughly.
105.
And that's down from 115 where it was a few years ago. You have, so let's stop being naive. You have 100 plus young men every single year.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking roughly at the last quarter century.
This list is, well, okay, continue.
You are talking about, and I'm going to point to what Nate said, elite athletes who do get a lot of special privileges, who are struggling to deal with post-college life, and I get that. But if you look at the sheer number in comparison to how many people have walked through the doors at Ohio State to play football, that percentage is very, very low that is this issue. These are isolated incidents. This is not a cultural issue. This is a small percentage of people who may or may not have issues related to mental health issues, CTE, call it upbringing. There are a lot of factors that factor into this. This is not an Ohio State cultural issue. And oh, by the way, yeah, you mentioned it. This goes back through all these coaches. If you look at this, there's 3 on there. How many people have played? How many kids have played for Ryan Day in his tenure as head coach? And you've got 3 listed here. And there was 2 more who had some issues, but were found not guilty.
Correct. And they're not on here.
And they're not on here, and they shouldn't be. But if you look back, a majority of these issues occurred pre-Ryan Day and his new culture. So this is not a cultural issue. I think this is a mental health issue that needs to be addressed at some point. I think this is a sociological issue that may need to be addressed at some point. But this is damn sure not an Ohio State issue. Because I think a lot of schools, if you look at it, probably have it worse. Yeah, we've got a couple of high-profile ones recently. Oh, by the way, Maurice Clarett isn't on here either. And he's the guy who turned it around, by the way.
Right.
So I'm tired of hearing about how bad Ohio State's culture is. I'm tired of hearing criticisms.
I didn't say that it was a bad culture.
I think he knows you're saying
the
that.
program based on a few isolated incidents. Kirk had demons, and sadly they caught up to him. Maurice Clarett had issues. He turned his life around. Darren Lee, we don't know what happened there. I'm sure that we're going to find out, via the trial. I'm sure at some point what exactly happened. Marcus Williamson, did some really stupid stuff.
Freudian slip.
Michael McCullough, again, another guy, really stupid stuff. But is this an indictment of a program? Are you going to indict Ryan Day's entire program?
No,
on 3
I'm not.
People.
Nor did I. I am simply presenting the facts presented to me by a rival fan who basically said, look, you guys are acting like you're God's gift to morality, and you're obviously not. And I think he's got a point.
The fact is, nobody's perfect, Eric. If we were perfect, we would be God. We're not.
I know that. But here's my question, Wild Man. And I know TG is going to jump in here real quick. But here's my question. Isn't it kind of hypocritical of us to bash Michigan left and right about their program and their culture when we have so many guys who came through Ohio State's program and culture who, when they get to be adults, can't hold it together, man?
Their coaches are the ones getting arrested, though. The guys that are supposed to be, laying some type of foundation for these kids, they're the ones that, how many of our coaches are getting arrested? Their coaches are getting arrested for serious crimes. Now, some of these guys are older, adult players now, but we're talking about their coaches who are all getting arrested, and not just going back to 2000, but look at the amount of coaches that have been at Michigan just since Harbaugh got there that are now, facing charges or in jail or what have you. I think that's where the distinction lies, right?
Yes, absolutely. We are calling out the Jim Harbaugh and Sharon Moore coaching tree era, and we are basically saying stop idolizing these men. Look at what they've done to your program.
And Eric, their activities were active while they were at the university.
Correct.
This is something that has happened to people after they've left Ohio State, after they've left many of them after they've left the game of football altogether. And again, I go back to how many of these people have issues involving CTE, mental health issues. How many of these guys may have other ongoing issues, sociological issues that may be the cause of this? It has nothing to do with Ohio State. That's like saying that, are you going to indict the military when a soldier comes back with the post-traumatic stress,
PTSD.
And we have an unfortunate incident with that. Are you going to now indict the entire military for that?
Of course not. Of course not.
Same basic issue. You're making somebody guilty by association post fact.
No, I'm not. I think Mika says it great here, and I promised TG I'd come to her next, and I am, but I do want to read this comment by Mika, and I think Mika is hitting the nail on the head. We need to call it out, though. To be fair, we would for others, and she's 100% right. As Ohio State fans, we would be dancing all over this list if it was Michigan. And
but we address these issues when they come up. Did we not shoot a video as soon as the Darren Green thing came out, Eric?
Yes,
did we not address it?
Yes, we did.
So it's not that we're not addressing it. It's that we're not bashing them. We're waiting on the facts to come out. That's what's got people pissed off.
And it does you as well, Chris, and I love it. TG.
No, I've got ignorance is what's got me pissed off.
I'm ignorant now.
See, look, here's the reality. Because I will say for this Michigan fan, being nice to say it is true. But the one thing I will tell this Michigan fan as well is we do call this out when we see it. Because, as you should, but we do wait for facts to come out. Like, for instance, I do see Quinshon Judkins on this list from when he got arrested in Florida. Wasn't this based on something with his ex-girlfriend?
I don't pay attention to NFL. You know more than me.
It was.
Was that from Florida or is that with the Browns? Because he was arrested in Florida for the incident with the Browns. It was around the ex-girlfriend. Only the story ended up being kind of shady, and the prosecutors declined to prosecute because there were questionable facts in the case.
Yeah, they dropped the charges.
Because I was going to say, like, in instances like Quinshon, I wouldn't put this on him because I think his girlfriend kind of made this up to try to get some money off him, in a sense. I'm not saying, like, and trust me, he wouldn't be the first in which this happened to, because we just talked about it with two former players that got completely lied on by some woman about them assaulting her, and the charges got dropped because there was no facts to any of this. So
correct.
I will say that there are times where that could happen. But for the rest of this, I will say that it is pretty concerning seeing a lot of these guys go through this. I'm not gonna lie, it is very concerning to see this, only because it's like with Kirk Barton, who I did love him, even when he was on Buckeye Scoop, I love listening to him because the man did have facts. I can't lie. But his demons caught up to him at the end of the day, and it's like you gotta pay the price for the decisions you make. But for the rest of them, I am trying to figure out, is this have something to do with CTE or some kind of social stuff that's causing them to act out this way, mental problems? Like, it is very concerning to see this. And in all fairness, I would like to see Ohio State probably try to help out these people as much as they can. I mean, we did see Marcus Claret not on here. He turned his life around after some of his own little incidents. I would like to see these players try to at least get some help. Like, if this does happen, I would like to see them get some help. I'm not going to lie. I would love to see this for them to get some help because they need it, no doubt. They need support in the best possible way.
Well, with all the money that this program has, how tough would it be to have an alumni system set up where people that don't have a job or are struggling with mental health or whatever can come back and get some direction or get some assistance? I don't think that's something. I mean, these guys gave their bodies, they gave their, 4 years of their lives to this program, and we, once they graduate or run out of eligibility, we kick them out the door and tell them, come back if you've won a Super Bowl, and we'll talk to you at halftime. But if you're struggling, stay the hell away. I think that it should be something that could easily be done with the resources that this program and that this university has to try and help some of these guys that are obviously having issues adjusting to life outside of football.
Yep. Especially now more than ever, because I will say that with Ryan Day, under Ryan Day, I think his players are set up in that regard. But for past players under Trustin Urban, they never really had that opportunity. So it would probably be for the best if we did have an alumni section set up where these guys who are struggling with life outside of football to get some direction. And given how large the fan base is, how large they also have the largest alumni base, I don't think it would hurt. And not only that, but I'm also bring up this comment by Tyler because he also brings this up as well. Unlike Michigan, who doesn't call out their problems and when they make mistakes, that the distinctions that our fan base is that our fan base calls the stuff out where they did ignore anything. So I would like to see Ohio State try to have an alumni.
Shows again.
And by the way, can I just say this? 0.27. I want you to keep that number in mind. 0.27. 2,930 players have played at Ohio State since the year 2000.
In all sports or just football?
In college football.
Okay.
2,930. Less than 1%, 0.27%, is what we are now criticizing and calling out.
Well, Chris, let me ask you this question, and you know what? I have a better idea.
Let's take it to Patreon.
Let's take it to Patreon because I think it's really important that you answer the following question for me. And I'm going to ask the question, and then we're going to end the show, and we'll take it to Patreon. Do you think we, as a podcast, as a platform that covers Ohio State sports, particularly 99.9% of it being football, do we have a responsibility to address the negative stories like the one that came out today with Williamson? Do we have a responsibility to do that, or should we just ignore it? That is the question I'm going to ask you next over on Patreon. If you haven't already, make sure you like the video. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. I think there might be a coaches interviews tomorrow after practice. They start the spring practice again, practice number 3 tomorrow. If they do, we will be here live to cover those press conferences. I think it might actually be Arthur Smith, which I will be seriously excited about because this will be the first time we've gotten to really hear him. I just want to know at the tailgate if the Wild Man's Breakfast Meats is going to be there. Yes, they will be.
Yes, they will be. And my wife is all prepped to cook them all up for you guys.
We'll see you guys over on Patreon, everybody. OH.
IO.
Go Bucks.
Ayo. It comes still sucks.